Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of AlexTechWorks. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and I'm going to be telling you how it performs with 10 months of use. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button below. You can also catch me on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter. It's all under AlexTechWorks. But anyways, let's get into this review. Right, so let's kick things off with the release date and options available when you can purchase the iPhone 13 Pro and the Pro Max. Now, the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max was available in 4 colours: Sierra Blue, Silver, Graphite, and also Gold. Now, it was also available in 4 different capacity options with 4 different prices. Now, I'm just going to read off my phone here so I make sure I get this right. The first one was priced at £1,049 for the 128GB model. £1,149 for the 256GB model, £1,349 for the 512GB model, and a whopping £1,549 for the 1TB option. Now, personally, I opted for the lowest capacity, which was 128GB, because I've got 2TB of iCloud storage, so personally I didn't feel the need to have all the capacity on my phone when it also goes onto the iCloud. Now, I think when I first purchased these, there was obviously a really big shortage of getting the iPhones, and I had to wait about a month to get mine. But I think, depending on where you are in the world, then obviously it depends on how long you can wait for one. Obviously, at the moment they're readily available, and you can just go and get one. But yeah, that's the release point and pricing of the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. Right, let's get into the good stuff, the design and build of this device. Now, the Pro Max is the largest of Apple's iPhone lineup, and it comes in at 160.8mm high by 78.1mm in width, by 7.65mm in depth, and it weighs 238 grams, which isn't a great deal, but it is 35 grams more than the iPhone 13 Pro version, the smaller version. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something to put you off, because I think the sheer size of this thing when I first unboxed it was pretty substantial. You really know you've got a larger phone. Now, one thing that was carried over from the 12 Pro Max is the stainless steel edge that's obviously around here, and the 3 camera bezels that have obviously stayed in place from the 12 Pro up to the 13 Pro Max. Now, one thing that has also been carried over, which is kind of like a standard thing on a lot of smartphones now, is the IP68 dust and water resistance. It was on the predecessor, the iPhone 12 Pro, so they've obviously carried that over to the 13 Pro Max. So that is the expectation and the benchmark that Apple has set themselves. Now, I think the biggest difference between the 13 Pro and the 12 Pro is the front camera and notch. Now, the notch, I'll just show you here, the notch on this phone is slightly smaller than the 12 Pro. I think if you're coming from a 12 Pro to a 13 Pro, you're probably not going to really notice much difference. But obviously, if you're coming from an older model which has a kind of a square frame, you're definitely going to notice that larger screen size, which is really nice. Now, I think one of the things that I first had a gripe with the iPhone 13 Pro Max was that it lacked a fingerprint sensor on the back and Touch ID. Now, obviously, where COVID's been around, you've had to wear face masks. Having Face ID didn't really work, and it would have been really nice if they had added in Touch ID onto the back of the phone, so you could just either use Face ID or Touch ID, and you could use it and do Apple Pay and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of like the only small little gripe I've got with this phone. Now, going back to colours, Apple has recently, quite a while back now, released Alpine Green, which looks absolutely sublime. It's such a nice colour. I would have 100% gone for that colour if it was available on release. But yeah, the Sierra Blue that I've gone for was a new colour, I'm glad I went with it. It blends in with my Apple Watch and also my HomePod as well. So yeah, all in all, it's a great colour. Now, I think personally the iPhone 13 Pro Max is a hefty phone. It's a large device. It's out and out size and weight is enough to put some people off. But you can't forget that with that larger screen size and larger phone, you get that additional battery capacity, which Apple claim is another 6 hours of battery life. Now, if you're a heavy phone user, such as watching YouTube, doing TikTok videos, doing Instagram Reels all the day long, then I would definitely opt for the bigger size, because that extra 6 hour battery life will definitely come in handy. But yeah, that's what I think of the design and build of the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro Max. Let's move on to the display. Now, the display was one of the biggest selling points that Apple drove when they sold the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. Now, the biggest difference I noticed between my old iPhone 11 Pro and the 13 Pro Max was the ProMotion display. The enormous 6.7-inch screen has a scaled refresh rate from 10 Hz all the way up to 120 Hz, which as a result, gives you ultra fast scrolling between apps when you're playing games, all that sort of thing. In other words, a higher refresh rate means that the screen will refresh faster when things change dynamically on the device itself. So yeah, like I said, going through apps, playing games, all that sort of stuff, it just looks super smooth. Although Apple has added 120 Hz refresh rate to their latest iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, it feels like more of an essential than a benefit to the phone itself. Most competitors are running 120 Hz on their mobile devices, so it's kind of about time that Apple, caught up with that level of standard that comes with other smartphone devices. But yeah, that's what I think of the display. So the battery life, and this is a massive thing when it comes to smartphones. I personally think Apple have smashed this out of the park with the 13 Pro and Pro Max especially. Now, this is the first phone that I can genuinely say will last 24 hours without having to plug it in and charge it up. I can happily use my phone all day long, watching YouTube, texting, messaging, doing Instagram Reels, doing TikTok videos, all that sort of jazz. And yeah, by the time it gets to the end of the day, I've got about 25% battery left, 30% battery left in some cases. It will easily outlast my iPhone 11 Pro. Now, I'd say if you're a heavy user, like I said before, go for the 13 Pro Max. That extra 6 hour battery life will certainly help you out. But I think the downside is with this device compared to competitors is that the charging speed is fairly slow compared to let's say a Samsung. To put it in sort of perspective, the iPhone 13 Pro Max will only reach 50% capacity in about half an hour, whereas other brands you'll get 100% in half an hour. That's extremely fast. And if you're using a 15-watt MagSafe charger, it's even slower. All in all, you can expect a full charge in around an hour and a half, which is still remarkably quick to charge a mobile device. In this day and age, your expectation of charging is a lot quicker than what it used to be. I remember my old 11 Pro, it would take sort of 3 hours to charge. But the 13 Pro Max, an hour and a half to charge to max using the 20-watt charger. I think where the iPhone 13 Pro Max really shows its true colours is with the 3 12-megapixel cameras on the back of the device. Now, these cameras take extremely high quality photos that you might think would come out of a proper camera, a Canon or a Sony or a Fujifilm, proper camera. But it just amazes me what sort of level of detail comes out of this device. I'll just throw up some images on the screen here and you can have a look at some of the pictures that I've taken. Absolutely incredible. The main camera is a 12 megapixel f1.5 aperture, which delivers 49% more light than the 12 Pro. With this extra light, you'll be able to create some seriously impressive shots. During dark shots, you can also use an ultra-wide sensor, which unlike the 12 Pro, now boasts Apple's new night mode. But I think with this night mode though, I would highly advise you use a tripod if you've got the aperture open for longer than a second. It's extremely difficult to hold the device still and steady for longer than a second, otherwise your images are going to come out blurry. So yeah, just if you're going to use night mode and you've got the aperture open for longer than a second, pop it on a little tripod. I'll drop a link down in the description below of what I use, and yeah, you'll get some incredibly detailed and awesome shots. Right, so one of the biggest selling points that Apple drove when they were selling the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max was cinematic mode. Now, I think they really went to town on showing you how good cinematic mode was with creating depth of field and being able to adjust it in post editing. Now, I have to say, it's pretty impressive. Some of the things that I've videoed in my first couple of episodes on this channel were filmed using my iPhone in cinematic mode. Now, go and have a look at those and see what you think. I'm welcome to any sort of suggestions or comments. Just go and have a look, go and have a watch, and leave some comments in the description, and yeah, let me know what you think. Now, the limitation of using cinematic mode is that it has to be 1080p rather than 4K, which personally I think is a bit of a letdown. Most of the time you want to film in 4K if you're doing any sort of cinematic shots or anything for YouTube. You want to get that real crisp, high detail videography shot. But yeah, I've used it and I'd say it's not as good as I thought it was going to be and the way that it was portrayed, but it is quite a nice feature to have. But yeah, I definitely think it doesn't beat any sort of professional rig. I'm filming here using my A7 III, and it's definitely not going to achieve the depth of field that a mirrorless camera is going to anywhere near. But it's a nicety, and I think if you're, trying to do some cool filming, yeah, it's quite nice to have. But yeah, that's what I think of videography of the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So yeah, let's just round things up there. Now, the base model of the iPhone 13 Pro Max came in at a whopping £1,049, which if you think about it, £1,000 for a phone, is it really worth it? Is it worth spending just over £1,000 for a mobile device? Now, there's no doubt the 13 Pro Max is an absolute beast, everything that I've just spoken about. But I think the performance and the sheer size of the thing, it's a two-handed phone without doubt. I don't ever really use my phone one-handed, especially if I'm texting or watching YouTube or anything like that. Really, it's definitely a two-handed device. Now, if you went for the smaller iPhone 13 and 13 Pro, then I think it's a one-handed phone, a smaller device. It's smaller in your pocket as well. You've got to think about that, and also the case as well. Once you add on a case, it's even larger. Right, so that's it from me today. I've waffled on enough about the iPhone 13 Pro. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope it's been super helpful for anyone that might be looking to buy one. I know that there might be some that are discounted now or a second-hand version, but yeah, I really hope that's been useful. Now, what would really help me out is if you hit that subscribe button below. It goes such a long way to creating more content and obviously more videos for you to watch. I'm also on Instagram, I'm also on Twitter, it's all under AlexTechWorks. But yeah, that's it from me today, and I hope I see you in the next one. Catch you later.